Good day and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Today we get to talk about an author that I used to enjoy a lot, but I just find doesn't write that well anymore, it seems. I don't know what's happened there. Maybe I've outgrown him, maybe not, maybe he's just gotten bad at writing, maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. But we're going to be talking about Orson Scott Card's book, Lost and Found. If you want to know why I didn't really like this book, stay tuned. Okay, so Orson Scott Card's Lost and Found. So just as a heads up, as a warning, this book and this review contains some subject which may be sensitive to some viewers, possibly a little bit triggering just because of some of the part of the premise and content of this book. Also, there may be some spoilers here, so if you haven't read it, well, honestly, I would say don't anyway because it wasn't a good book. But if you're going to read it and don't want spoilers, I'm telling you now that there may be some spoilers in this review. Anyway, the basic premise of this book is this 14-year-old boy named Ezekiel. He has the ability to find lost things and return them to his owners. He is also a kid who has been shunned by his classmates and his peers. He's been accused of being a thief because he always returns the things that are lost, so people assume that he's the one that stole them in the first place. So his ability here, and this micro power that he has, catches the attention of a local police officer who enlists his assistance in helping to find a lost girl who has been kidnapped by this child pornography ring who are taking young girls and forcing them into this. So that's kind of where the sensitive nature thing comes in here, with respect to who the villains are and what they're doing to these children and these victims. I would say that premise itself is good. Like, there's nothing wrong with the premise, but that's about where the good ends with this book. I didn't like the book, and it's got nothing to do with the content or the premise itself. Like, who the bad guys are, that's not why I didn't like this book. But essentially, some of my problems that I had with this book is that he basically tells the same story twice. Despite the book's short length, he tells the same story twice. So we've got Ezekiel, who's hired to find this missing girl. He finds her, and then Ezekiel's friend, who is a girl, goes missing, and guess what? He finds her. He tells the same story twice. So you could have split this into two short stories easily. And just repetitive nature of it was just boring to me. In fact, the writing itself was pretty boring to me. I didn't find it interesting at all. Ezekiel even finds himself involved in this group that supposedly they all have these micro powers, and it just really felt juvenile and stupid. Like the micro power to tell if somebody has an innie or an outie belly button, or the ability to make someone yawn, or the ability to make smells disappear. I mean, it just seems like these silly little juvenile ideas within this book itself, which aren't that great in terms of really exploring this. Now, the idea behind these micro powers, this micro power group, is supposed to help Ezekiel figure out the full extent of his abilities and power, which is fine to have that in the setting, but this group basically plays no role in the overall outcome of the story. They're not really involved. It's almost like a side trip that detracts from the story itself. And even when it's supposedly this group goes out with them to help him find these missing people, he completely abandons them, so they had no involvement whatsoever. I mean, for me, it just would have been a cooler story if somehow these little quirks that these people have could be brought to play in some kind of, adventure and rescue attempt or something like that, where they use their powers to figure things out to their advantage and how to make them work somehow. I don't know how they could have done that, but Orson Scott Card, I mean, you're an experienced writer. You've been doing this for years. I'm sure you could have designed and created a story where you could have had that play into this, but you didn't. So it completely fell flat for me on that. Even our main character, Ezekiel, wasn't that all inspiring to us, as well as Beth, his friend that disappears. Her story wasn't all that great. So despite the tragedy that both characters have had, it's still, the writing was just dull. Like, it didn't really feel a connection to these characters. In addition to that, the victims of these kidnapping gang, we don't even spend time with them while they're in captivity, except for these brief little flashes or glimpses that Ezekiel has. Very brief, in fact, so there's no point of view perspective from the victim side of what's going on there, which made it very difficult and for the reader to really feel and have some kind of emotional attachment to the victims, to really feel for them and to relate to them, because we don't know what's going on. We don't have any point of view from the victim side. Easily, you could have cut one of the two stories out, which were basically the same story, expanded upon the victim's perspective, what's going on over there, what is happening to our victim, without taking to the story. In fact, it would have added to the story itself. So it really felt like Orson Scott Card was just thinking of the most evil, terrible thing that he could think of in order to tell the story. Oh, let's just have bad guys abduct kids for child porn rape. But we get nothing on that side of things. It's like just saying, yeah, this happened, done. Where's the storyline? Where's the character development? Where is the point of view from the victims? What is happening here? There's just none of that. And in so many ways, the book just failed for me. And really disappointed with this, because Card, in my experience, at least with the past books, has been so much better than this. And this just was not the level that I would expect from someone like Orson Scott Card. This is not like a debut novel. He has a well-established career in writing. Ender's Game was his biggest success, and unfortunately seems to be where he hit his peak so early on in his career. There was some stuff after Ender's Game which was okay, not bad. Lost Boys is one I could think of, but this one, Lost and Found, it's just terrible. I mean, Card has a reputation for Card's children and writing stories about kids and about children that, you know, you could really relate to and connect to, at least in his earlier works. But this one was just terrible. I do not recommend it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 star review on Goodreads, and overall, I just didn't like it. The book sucked, and probably the worst book I've read this year. So those are just my thoughts on Lost and Found. Terrible book. Would not recommend it to anybody. So if you were thinking about buying it, do yourself a favor and don't. Again, this is purely my own opinion. Maybe you like it. Maybe you completely disagree with me. And you know what? That's totally fine. That is okay. In fact, you know, tell me what you thought. Have you read this book? Did you like it? I know that I didn't like it. If you read it and liked it, cool. Go check it out. Right? Tell me why you liked it. Tell me why I'm wrong. Keep it plain, respectful, of course, as always. I'm open to discussion, and I don't want to live in an echo chamber. And if you think that maybe I'm wrong on this, tell me. But as always, you know, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And those are just some of my thoughts on Lost and Found. And until next time, keep on reading. Bye.